Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but first, we want to acknowledge our partners. We coach the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, and the Florida Coaches Coalition. You've heard me say many times before, these are four great organizations. You should really add them to your network. Okay, now don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors a shout out. These are all companies I used as an athletic director. I really think you should be using them too. Here we go. Hey, we want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper, the official social media graphic solution for the podcast. If you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. It's so easy to use, even I can use it. Go to Gipper.com, start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to showcase your school record boards, your school's Hall of Fame, or simply tell your school's most compelling stories. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online for all your events, not just athletic events. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Go to hometownticketing.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo. See their tables and their boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that helped them coach our kids up to the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Are you tired of spending hours and hours with fundraisers that take too much time and give you little, if any, return? Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at my school with great success. It flat out works. Go to snapraise.com for more information. You'll also find a lot of other platforms like Snap Store, Snap Manage, Snap Connect that help you do your job better. And you'll automatically be entered in a $1,500 drawing for your next Snap Raise fundraiser. You'll find it all at snapraise.com. We'd like to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for scheduling, for student-athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that'll connect you to your parents, your student athletes, and more. Athletic directors already hear back from the complainers, but did you know 98% of your parents, your student athletes, love and support what you're doing? Collecting that data gives you an extremely valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take the pulse of your program. athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got one of our regulars. We've got one of our favorites. Our guest today is Melanie Redd. Regular listeners will recognize that name. Melanie is a professional strength and conditioning coach. She's in Ohio. She works with teams. She works with individuals. She works with corporations. And today she's with us on Wednesday Wisdom. So Melanie, welcome back. You mentioned football just wrapped up at your school. What do you have for our listeners today on Wednesday Wisdom?
Hi, Jake, and thanks for having me on. So today I want to talk to everybody about strength and conditioning logistics. And I think this is the time of year where for spring sports and a lot of fall teams are starting to think about what they're going to do in the weight room for their off preseason programming and how to go about that. And I know a lot of coaches in the country are just trying to figure this strength and conditioning thing out on their own. And so wanted to kind of give you guys like a sneak peek into like what my thought process is when I'm designing programs for teams or schools or club organizations. So when we think about logistics, first of all, there's a term in our world called logistics rule, and they rule everything. So there's always the things that you want to do, but that may or may not align with the logistics that you have in place. In terms of logistics, we go from just the facility. So some people don't have a facility at all. Sometimes there's a small weight room, sometimes there's a mid-sized weight room, and sometimes there's a massive weight room. I've worked in every single version of those scenarios that I just mentioned. So when we're looking at just facility logistics, small weight rooms, or no weight rooms at all, you're generally using a gym or a hallway space. And maybe you have equipment and you don't. Let's assume for the sake of time today that we're talking like small weight room. Generally in those situations, what you want to do is divide your kids up into pods. So whether you have a small group, a mid group, or a large group, and you're working with that really small space, you're going to want to have 3 or 4 pods, depending on how many kids are in that session. So there might be a pod that works in the racks with the bars and racks doing bench press, squat, whatever. And then maybe you'll have a pod that works with dumbbells, kettlebells, and bands. And then maybe another pod doing some body weight exercises. And if you have a 4th pod, then that group may be jumping, sprinting, doing some sort of shuffling or change of direction out in a hallway. Sometimes there's a really small weight room and there's a really great gym close by. And in that scenario, and you have access to that gym, it's a more wide open space, probably a better surface for running. Then, maybe have one of your pods go there. But when you're thinking about logistics of pods, you need more than one coach. So because you can't have a coach in the weight room with those pods and then these kids out in the hallway or in a gym just doing their own thing. So that's another logistical thing you need to think about is how many coaches do you have available for your session? And that is a major, that's a logistic that's going to have a heavy impact on how you structure those sessions. Mid-size weight rooms, maybe you'll just split the group in half. Again, you'll need another coach for that. So maybe you have a weight room coach and pod, and then you've got a hallway / gymnasium pod that once again is working on maybe some of your body weight stuff, core work, and your speed, agility, jumping, plyometrics, or whatever. There's a huge misconception that really large weight rooms and really large facilities don't have logistical issues, and they do. Because probably the larger the facility you have, the more people that are going to want to use it, and potentially the more people you'll have wanting to use that at the same time. So while your equipment isn't a logistical issue, you may be sharing the weight room with another group at the same time. So that's certainly also going to drive some of those programming decisions. And you may need to treat sharing a large weight room as if it were a mid-sized weight room and do your splitting up into groups. So facility size and the equipment are going to be the main logistical things that you're going to want to think about before you write out a program. But again, I touched on like how many coaches you have. That also is another, driving factor. So if you've got just you and maybe a really small weight room, then you're going to have to figure out how to pack all those kids into that one weight room and work out your pods within that space. Or maybe you just skip the weight room that day and find an open space and do everything together. It would be a good idea to have a backup workout option in those scenarios, so that as a sport coach, you're not having to try to think through strength and conditioning on your feet, because that's just not your area of expertise, right? But there's some other things that I really want people to think about that I think are logistical things that also need to go into consideration when you're like deciding, what you want to do. Besides, how many coaches are going to be in the room, you also need to think about obviously how many kids, but not only that, the readiness level of that group as a whole, the spectrum of readiness. So you'll have kids who are there day one through kids who are in their fourth year. But also right now, we really also need to consider the willingness factor. If those kids are not really super gung-ho about being in there and you're trying to sell this idea of accountability and attendance, it would be best to have something super simple that they can execute rather quickly, and to end that session with some sort of fun competition. Something like the last thing that they remember should be that thing that kind of draws them back in for the next one. And that willingness factor is becoming more and more of a consideration every single year. I don't think it's because kids are losing interest in strength and conditioning. I think it's because with the social media influence, kids are having their own ideas of what they think strength and conditioning should be. And these are usually misguided ideas that they've seen on like TikTok or something like that. So definitely need to keep that into consideration. Also highly recommend as a coach that if you're writing out a program, whether you're doing it on your own or you got some help from someone, I really recommend running through it or some version of it yourself, so you can kind of gauge how long it's going to take. When I write a program, I know exactly how long it's going to take, and I will guide a coach through this circuit will take this long and this circuit will take this long. But unless you've really tried to run through it, and I don't necessarily mean with weights, but just kind of like thinking about how long it would take to rep out, 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 8 or 10 or whatever. I think that's a really important way, because oftentimes people plan workouts that they think are 45 minutes that are actually like 90 minutes. And also when you're talking about logistics, like err on the side of finishing early versus going over or not being able to get everything in, because you can always add something onto, the next week or whatever. So time allocated is another really important logistics to work out. And all of these things are really just going to drive what your program entails and how you're going to coach it. And then I just want to leave everybody with, just a little tip for the end as you're working through strength and conditioning with your team. And we talked about the logistic of the readiness level, and you've got new kids, who have never seen a weight room before, never done an exercise, and sometimes maybe not even a sport before. And then you've got kids who are juniors and seniors in that space who have been in the program for a while and they know a thing or two. And to make your logistics a little bit easier, appoint some older kids to partner up with younger kids and help them be an extra set of eyeballs. Those kids may actually also become mini coaches. So, that's a great opportunity for them to learn some leadership skills in, an environment that is not super competitive and isn't very stressful or shouldn't be. But really good opportunity for them. You kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Well, you probably saw me scribbling down all those notes. I love spending time with you, but I love how you're always very consistent with some of the principles that you share. And this whole idea of being organizational planning, working on the logistics, just very much in line. As you would as you were going through some of your points, I just had flashbacks to moments in my career. I remember I was a young head football coach, and again, what was I doing? I was in charge of the weight room, and I was doing coaching how I'd been coached myself, and I
Right.
think we were doing okay. But I remember the local gym. It was a fitness gym, and it was run by a grad of our school that had been there. He's maybe a little bit younger than me, so he was young too. But I remember he's bragging. He's a bodybuilder, and he's bragging about this new workout he's doing. He goes, Jake, this workout is so great. It's so tough. I can't even finish the workouts. And I'm going, well, you can't finish the workout. I mean, why are you doing it? It just doesn't make sense. And every time I listen to you, I hear, whether you say it or not, I hear quality over quantity. I
Yeah.
hear smarter, not harder. And it's just, I think it's so important because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of coaches, whether it's football, basketball, lacrosse, you name it, that they end up being in charge of their own weight room because they
Mm-hmm.
don't have a professional strength coach like you in their gym. And it can really be a challenge
Mm-hmm.
to put things together that are not, let's say, a football workout or a
Right.
basket for everybody. I was fortunate, I played football and I ran track in college, and so we trained pretty much from a explosive speed
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And I was able to learn on the road or on the go as a young coach and
Mm.
an older coach until we ended up with a professional strength coach in our weight room. So great stuff.
Thanks.
Let's get this out of the way, and I'm sure you got a couple other nuggets to share. If one of our listeners wants to reach out, find out more about how you organize your weight room, and again, listeners, you got a tremendous resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of Melanie Redd, and then what else do you have for us?
The best way to get a hold of me is probably email. I'm still a big email person. Melanie at mrperformancetraining.com. I'm on Facebook, both the business Melanie Redd Performance Training and personal Facebook page. Instagram is, I think it's at Melanie Redd 1. And then my Twitter handle is, I think it's Coach Mel. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head. Coach Mel. Yeah. Um, I'm not hard. I'm not hard to
Well,
find. DMs are always open. And I check my email all throughout the day. So,
and if you're really old like me, Melanie is also on Facebook. She's in high school athletic director as a member.
mm-hmm,
She's also in secondary school athletic director, has some great posts, some great observations
mm-hmm.
about sports, about conditioning, you name it. Great
Yeah,
resource to add.
we should do one on the middle school because I think um I've got, some thoughts on just the fundamentals for middle school athletes who are going to be in, a high school weight room and starting them or in that middle school age range just on the fundamentals, just on the movement patterns, like even unweighted stuff, but teaching that technique. And there's actually some people that I'm connected with on Twitter who are doing like really large group middle schoolers, no weights, PVC pipes, teaching, technique with that. I think it's really great work. So something to think about.
No, I would love to. And that goes right along with one of the logistical points you mentioned about readiness.
Mm-hmm.
Too often, that middle school kid's first experience in the weight room is a negative one, and they get
Yeah,
turned off of a really beneficial program down the road
right.
because it wasn't done properly. So yeah,
Yeah.
that readiness is so important. Let's do that on your next segment.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, Melanie, once again, thanks so much for sharing with our listeners. I know you're tremendously busy with all the teams at your schools and all your clients. All the best as we transition from fall into winter sports.
Yep.
And we'll look forward to the next time we have you on Wednesday Wisdom.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For listeners, we do this every single week and we upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks as always for listening. Come back next time for another great segment and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. We also want to acknowledge our sponsors one more time. Home Campus, go to homecampus.com. Athletic clearance, communication with parents, with coaches, homecampus.com. Athletic surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not doing surveys, you're really missing out on a great opportunity to collect data about your program. Go to athleticsurveys.com, athleticsurveys.com. We want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com and get signed up. Home Campus is the official high school and state association platform for us. It's also your one-stop for scheduling, athletic clearance, and a whole lot more. Go to homecampus.com for more information. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule a demo and see all their products in action. Sidelineinteractive.com. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com to get signed up. Gipper. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for us. It's also your one-stop to create world-class content for your school's social media channel. Go to gipper.com. Mention the podcast. You'll get a nice discount. If you're looking for a fundraiser, stop right here. Snap Raise is the #1 online fundraiser out there. We used it at my school with great success. It flat out works. Go to snapraise.com to get more information. And Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Thanks again for listening today. Come back next time for another great Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast.